KATU Sports presents a special NBA draft edition of the Rip City Wrap-Up right now.
Night one of the 2026 NBA draft has wrapped up. You're taking a live look at Brooklyn, New York, where the first round of the draft was held. Tonight we saw stars like Cameron Boozer, AJ Debonsa, and Darius Acuff all selected to be the next stars of the NBA.
Tonight is a night that not only reflects on the future of the NBA, but for us to look towards the future of the Portland Trail Blazers. You're taking a live look at the Moda Center. With the new head coach in the ownership, the future remains uncertain. We will talk a little about the NBA draft tonight, but we got some important topics to address with Rip City. Good evening. My name is Guillermo. Motta. Welcome to Rip City Wrap-Up.
And I'm Wright Gazaway. As Guillermo said, a lot to get to as we begin. We do want to be transparent. KATU is a media partner of the Portland Trail Blazers. While we value that partnership, this production was developed independently by KATU and was not created in collaboration with the Trail Blazers organization. There are plenty of Trail Blazers headlines tonight. The team has officially hired Mike Nori as head coach. He comes from Minnesota, where he was the Timberwolves' lead assistant. Also, the Giannis sweepstakes are over, so what are the possible targets for the Trail Blazers this summer? On the business side, the future of Moda Center renovations remains unclear. City leaders will need to look for another source of funding if the mayor doesn't win support for using the Portland Clean Energy Fund for that project. Coming up, we'll break it all down, including what's next for the Blazers and the biggest arena decision in years.
And we start with longtime Trailblazer reporter Casey Holdahl. Casey, good to have you again.
It's always a pleasure, Guillermo.
Good haircut. Okay, so we got to talk.
That's very kind of you to say.
Interim head coach position is out the window. We got a brand new head coach coming in, Mike Nori. He comes from the Timberwolves. He's been in the league since 2009. What should we know about this guy?
Mike Nori, longtime assistant coach in the NBA, well-respected throughout NBA circles, has come up throughout the ranks under a number of well-known coaches, has worked with a bunch of great organizations, as you well know, most recently being the Timberwolves, where I believe he's been through 2001 as the lead assistant. Obviously, they've had a lot of success there in Minnesota the last couple seasons, more so than they probably had for the last 20 seasons. Mike Nori definitely a part of that, a coach who's known for being a very astute offensive mind, a coach that players generally like to play for. He's got a nice kind of familiar way to him. I think if you've ever seen any of his in-game interviews that he's done, he kind of has some fun turns of phrase and you know, it's kind of a little bit of a different guy, I think, for NBA head coaches. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a buttoned-up head coach. He is, but I think someone who maybe is a little more outside of the mainstream. I think Chris Finch actually had some comments about that today, saying that, you know, himself and guys like Mike Nori, you know, kind of outsiders a little bit, guys who weren't blue bloods in college, didn't necessarily come up in the ranks as well-known guys who had to kind of go out and grind and earn it. Obviously, having been an assistant coach now for almost 20 years now, getting his first opportunity to be a head coach, I think that just goes to show that he's obviously been working very hard for a long time in hopes of getting a chance, and the Blazers are the team to give it to him.
A student of the game, like you mentioned. Speaking of the student part and their learning, this will be the Blazers' third coach in 2 years. Yeah. What kind of impact can that make to the players that they have to adjust yet to another system, if any?
Yeah, it's not great. You know, I think, you know, having constant turnover in your coaching staff is I mean, it's hard to develop a style of play. It's hard to develop a culture. It is hard to know what players are supposed to be expecting and working on in the offseason and from game to game. So, you know, you would rather have some stability there. That's absolutely true. But obviously, you couldn't do anything about the Chauncey situation. You know, Tiago came in and did a very admirable job and resulted in him getting the job in Chicago. And now they look to Mike Nori. And, you know, would it be better if they had the same coach for a couple seasons? Yes, if they were winning. You know, the other part of that, too, is if, you know, you get into a situation where you have a head coach and you don't want to pay to have to get another head coach, so you just stick with it even though it's not working. That's not a good situation to be in either. So, you know, I think, you know, hopefully one would hope with new ownership and a new coach that this is kind of the start of a more stable kind of period in terms of the coaching staff. And I would say, you know, the competitiveness as well. I think, you know, they've been a team that's kind of been straddling that line between wanting to kind of develop young talent and be a playoff team. I think now they're starting to transition more into being a playoff team. And so you would hope that with this hire, they have maybe given themselves a little stability, though. You know, with a 1 year with two options after that, questionable how much stability you're actually getting there.
Yeah. Speaking of stability, he's here. What we know so far is that he's here for a year at least, and then we see what happens after that. Real quick question about that. When a new guy comes in, how does it work? Like, do the current guys in the roster reach out to the head coach, or the head coach reaches out to the players? How does that go?
That's more of a head coach thing. It's really more incumbent upon the head coach and the front office staff to do those kind of introductions. My guess is he will be at the practice facility very soon if he's not there already, and you're going to meet players and staff and coaches just through being in the building. You know, there's quite a few players that have been, going through workouts at the practice facility. You got Dame, you got Shaden, you got Scoot, you got Donovan as well. I think Tamani's been in and out of the practice facility as well. So you're going to come across those guys. Part of it, though, that's also kind of one of those things where I'm sure there will maybe be a few points of touch in the off season, but that's also a thing too where that's, players, their off season, their time is their own, and they're on vacations and they're going through their own contract stipulations and their own contract situations. So there will be time to get to know Mike and Nori, but that's really more probably closer to training camp. They usually have those kind of informal training camps where they all get together and maybe go somewhere for a week. I would not all be surprised if they do end up going that route, if they have some members of the coaching staff there. You also assume there's going to be some new assistant coaches as well. One, they've lost a couple of assistants. They've lost, obviously, Thiago. They've lost Patrick St. Andrews. So, there's going to be some new faces in the building outside of Mike and Nori as well. So there will be a chance for that to come together, maybe just not right away.
We have about a minute left, Casey, but I have to ask you, okay, this guy's been around the league since 2009. He's definitely experienced. He's on the younger head coach-wise when it comes to years. He's in his 50s, I believe.
Yeah, I believe 51, 52.
When you bring a guy with this much experience as a head coach, how much easier does it get to make that transition into the head role?
I think it's obviously very helpful. And kind of what I compare it to is when Chauncey Billups took the job, obviously he had played, but he had only had 1 year of assistant coaching experience. And there were a lot of times, particularly that first season, where even just like the logistics of being a head coach, knowing when to call timeouts, understanding kind of the challenge process, those kind of things, you kind of lose a little bit. Mike and Nori has been around a long time. I don't think that it's going to take him nearly as long to get up to speed as it might another first-year head coach.
Thank you, Casey. We're going to stay put with Casey and with that press conference coming from the Trailblazers. Coming up after the break, though, it could be a fun free agency. We break down the Giannis trade and what could be the Blazers trade for Jaylen Brown to come to PDX. Is that a possibility? We'll talk about that next. Welcome back to the special edition of Rip City Wrap Up. Veteran Blazers reporter Casey Holdahl joins us again. Okay, Casey, we talked about the head coach part.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the big fish that was traded yesterday. Giannis Antetokounmpo reportedly going to the Miami Heat. Let's talk about the Trailblazers because they were involved in those talks for a long time, speculation. How close was actually the team getting there to actually trade for him?
I mean, it's always a little hard to tell. I'm not in those rooms. Very few people are. But I think, the reports and kind of what I've heard from people is that obviously there's interest there. And I think there was a hope that with the Blazers having so many picks from the Bucks, that they might be able to figure out some kind of deal. The issue, obviously, was Giannis sending very clear signals that he would not be resigning in Portland, even if they did trade for him. So then you're in a situation where you're expending a ton of assets to get a guy for one season. I was of the personal opinion that Giannis is of a caliber of player that I would at least try that still and try to convince him to stay. But you also understand being a bit risk averse, particularly when you have those Bucks picks that I think because of this trade, could end up being better picks than you even thought they were going to be. So, while I'm sure there was interest for the Trailblazers, obviously Dame has a history with Giannis. Drew has history with Giannis. So I think there was maybe a hope that maybe through those relationships that maybe there'd be some willingness there. But, I mean, I think when you ask a young man, would you rather be in Portland, Oregon or Miami? Miami's usually going to win that battle.
I was willing to trade my house and my 2 cats for Giannis. But anyways, all right. So let's talk about those picks that you were talking about. Pick swaps in 2028 and 2030 for the Blazers that they get from the Bucks. Now that the Bucks have traded away their superstar and former MVP, how valuable are those picks now?
I mean, it's a little hard to tell because of the changes that they've made to the lottery system. Because now that they've rejuggled the odds, like it's being terrible is not as advantageous as it used to be. But having said that, you would assume that the Bucks, without Giannis, are probably going to be taking a step back for a considerable amount of time. You look at the return they got through the Heat trade. They got 3 first-round picks, which I'm sure they feel very good about. But the actual basketball talent that they received, I don't think there's anyone that's incredibly excited about that. I don't think you look at that Bucks team now and say to yourself, boy, that's a team they're definitely not a contender, but even a playoff team. So if they're not a playoff team and those are picks that are going to be in the lottery somewhere for the Trailblazers, that's very good news. You obviously, the pick swaps, if you assume the Blazers are going to be better than that, they have the opportunity to swap, so they get better picks. And they will just get better picks through the first-round picks they have from the Bucks because one assumes that, again, that they are probably not going to be a team that's going to be fighting for playoff position for the next couple seasons unless they turn around and take some of those assets that they've acquired and then flip them. But I think the general consensus seems to be that this is the start of a reset for the Bucks, if it's not already kind of started last season anyways. So I would imagine that the Giannis trade is very good news for the Trailblazers in terms of those picks.
Casey, just for my entertaining purposes, we got about 30 seconds, but JB, not the king from New York, but Jaylen Brown, what are the realistic chances that the Blazers could get that?
I mean, I think it's a long shot. Obviously, that it's predicated on the idea that they are going to trade Jaylen Brown. He obviously got thrown into a lot of the trade rumors about Giannis. Jaylen being a bit of a finicky guy, there's an assumption there that maybe he's not going to want to go back to Boston. I don't know if that's such a great assumption just yet. Unfortunately, the Trailblazers do have a lot of assets, but they're mostly draft assets, and I think the Celtics are still a team that are probably looking for more talent on the court, not so much talent in the draft lottery.
Casey, you are the man. Check out Casey Holdahl on social media. All right, coming up next on Rip City Wrap Up. Today, we spoke with Portland City Councilor Dan Ryan, what he wants in the deal to renovate the Moda Center. Coming up next. Welcome back. Today, Portland Mayor Keith Wilson wrote a letter to the community about Moda Center funding. It was his pitch to fund the city's portion of the Moda Center renovations, and it was addressed to the community. However, the audience seemed clear, right? Let's talk about that real quick, just because this one has been a topic of conversation. What do you think so far about it?
Yeah, that letter was at least partly directed at City Council because they're the ones who will ultimately have to approve any funding here. He criticized people who've made accusations about his plan to fund these renovations. He implied they were doing so for election purposes, and if you didn't know, half the City Council, so 6 of the 12 City Councilors are currently up for re-election, so that's what he's getting at.
What does this tell you about the mayor kind of like applying pressure to get this deal happening?
It's clear he wants them to support this plan. I mean, he's the one out championing it, but they have to vote to approve it. So the project has ties to Portland's, effort. The money he wants to use, the Portland Clean Energy Fund, that's tied to the efforts to reduce carbon, reduce greenhouse gases, make the city more climate friendly. So he really wants to use that pot of money, and he has to convince the City Council to do that. So he's really pitching this to them. It was written to the community, but you really feel like it was written to City Council, getting them on board with this plan.
Yeah, I mean, we had them right here on this set saying like, hey, we want a better deal. We want not to use the climate pledge fund, but this plan doesn't really tell you that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, he basically said in this letter, if the city doesn't ultimately approve using about $75 million from the climate fund to fund these renovations, they'll have to find other money. He left that kind of open-ended, and we asked his office today, and he didn't really give any clarity there. So he's basically saying, I think this money, $75 million, the renovation plan has a tie to the climate fund. I think we should use it, but if we don't, we have to come up with more money because he really feels like this plan has to go through. This is a big deal to him.
Yeah, strategy going into play now because, I mean, the timing of the letter going into tomorrow, right?
Right before tomorrow's meeting, there's the chamber meeting with the new owner. The mayor will be at that. City Council is also holding a work session at the same exact time, so it's unclear if the mayor can go to both. So this kind of felt like his argument to them in lieu of being there in person. That'll be a work session, so no public comment, but it's really the first time city councilors will talk as a whole about what sort of terms they want in this deal. So this felt like his last pitch to them before that meeting saying, we really need to do this climate-related money for this project. And today I spoke to Councilor Dan Ryan about that meeting tomorrow. We did have to shorten this interview just because of the draft going a little bit long, but here's a portion of our conversation today at City Hall. Are you concerned the Blazers could leave if the city doesn't foot its portion of this?
Of course. I don't think he's bluffing. I think Texas Tom is a person that is a big kid that wants to win basketball games. He's proven that with what he did with the Carolina franchise in the hockey league, and they just won the Stanley Cup. Yeah. So he's serious about winning ball games, and I think it's important for us to know that's his job. Our job as landlord is to make it so attractive that the last thing that he would consider is taking this out of town. He is coming into a city that has so much love per person for the franchise. We're basically, in my opinion, the Green Bay of the NBA. This is a community franchise. And I think that's what matters to us. What matters to the owner is to win ball games, and our job is to make sure our arena is something that wows everybody, and it really meets NBA specific criteria, and also it really pleases the Fire, and we start getting some concerts back that are flying over Portland. To me, this whole idea of the renovation of the Moda Center and that whole Rose Quarter area, to me it stretches from the convention center to the Rose Quarter area up to Lloyd Center. We have to take that whole area seriously. And I am a representative on this council from District 2. That should be our primary economic engine of District 2. And I want to make sure that we really focus on that, big picture-wise.
It gives some people heartburn to give this money to a billionaire who just bought the team. The city owns the arena, but the team operates it. Rip City Management operates it.
I'm pushing back on you.
Well, how do you sell this to people?
Why are you saying that we're giving money to a billionaire? It's an arena. It's our arena.
How do you alleviate people's concerns whose perception is this is a handout to a rich owner?
It's just not simply true. This is about our own pride. This is our arena. We own it. Do we want it to be mothballed, or do we want it to actually step up and punch up and be the awe of the rest of the NBA? I'd choose to do that. And so this isn't about us giving money to a handout to a billionaire. It's about us loving ourselves enough, caring about our future enough to invest in our prize jewel that allows us to have an international brand right here in our city.
The city, as you mentioned, owns the building. Rip
Yes.
City Management is the operator, so they make the money off the events that are held there. What are some things the city could get in a deal to get some money back, whether it's rent or anything that could give the city a slice of that pie?
We have to bargain fairly for our taxpayers, and I will. We will. And so I don't want to get into specifics of that, because first I want to see if there's a commitment from the council majority that we want to know what our terms are, and we want to really know what this is for us, big picture. And it is success that we actually sustain an economic engine that is having an NBA franchise in your city.
Last question on this. The mayor, part of his little proposal he's put together, not final, he's mentioned using money from the Portland Clean Energy Fund to supplement the city's portion of this investment. That's concerned some colleagues. What conversations have you had about the use of that money for this project?
I've heard a lot on this issue, on where the money comes from. There seems to be more attachment to us definitely keeping the franchise. I hear that constantly more as a positive. It's where it's resourced from. And I think we have to get to the bottom line of that. I think that having a brand of being a leader in the green economy, and then having a mind-blowing state-of-the-art energy efficiency arena that's stunningly beautiful, that does things that I don't even know how to really articulate, but science I know could help us with this, that it becomes an infrastructure for the neighborhood surrounding it. It's how do we make the Albina Vision Trust vision become a part of this. So this is, this can ignite a ripple of positivity. And when I think about my hometown, when I've traveled, when I haven't lived here, people talk about two things when they have no idea where Portland is. And then I say, well, have you heard of Nike? Oh yeah, that's in Portland. Have you heard of the Portland Trailblazers? Yes, okay, that's Portland. It's between Seattle and San Francisco. I want us to be a stop. I don't want us to be a flyover. And so I think it's so important that we take this seriously, not take all the bait about bluffing or whatever you keep hearing about, and let's get this done.
How quickly do you want to see this deal done?
Well, the time's ticking. We don't want to leave money on the table from the state or from the county, and so we got to really focus on this summer.
Councilor
Yeah.
Dan Ryan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's really good to see you.
Yeah.
Right, good stuff. Just one question. I mean, he clearly supports the
Yeah.
funding of the renovation of the Moda Center, right?
Yeah, and we had to cut that part out because we asked why it's so important to him, and he made up an interesting comparison. He said the Portland airport that just got redone, people fly here, they remember the airport. He says people come to the Moda Center when it's renovated, they will remember Portland for that. He wants it to be a feather in Portland's cap. So he brought in the airport and how people bring that up, and he feels like Moda Center, if it's redone, could become a crown jewel like that. So he's really hopeful. What he's looking for tomorrow in that work session is the majority of council supportive? And if they are, what will be the terms they come up with? And that's what they're discussing tomorrow. We also had to cut that question out. That's what he's looking for tomorrow.
Real quick, how important is it for city councilors to actually be at that session with Tom Dundon?
Well, I mean, they obviously feel like the work session is more important. They need to come up with their terms. They were invited to that meeting. They have the work session scheduled. So they invited Tom Dundon to City Hall. Of course, it is an opportunity to hear from him at that meeting. The mayor will be there, the county chair will be there, as well as some state leaders. So a big meeting in both places. We'll be at both.
All right, there you go. We'll have more information on our website, KATU.com. Always, you can find these episodes of Rip City Wrap Up on our YouTube channel, and stay put tomorrow for a more breakdown of what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll have that whole Dan Ryan interview. You really just missed like a minute, but we'll have that on YouTube as well.
Thank you, Wright. All right, have a good night, everyone.